Hi guys. So I figured today, it's been 3 months since I gave birth, so I need to just go ahead and get my birth story out of the way. I've been avoiding talking about it because firstly, it's gonna be a long video. It's gonna be broken into 2 parts. And then secondly, it just was not a great experience. So I've kind of been like trying to just not think about it. So I was due November 10th, 2016. I was only dilated to a 1 at my 40-week appointment, and so especially with gestational diabetes, my doctor and I decided like, okay, let's go ahead and schedule an induction. And that was my first mistake. And I thought that maybe like they would schedule it, so that was on a Thursday. She said she'd schedule it next week. I thought maybe they'd schedule it like next Thursday or, you know, sometime. And I got a call on Friday. They were like, okay, you're scheduled for this Sunday. I was like, what? Like, oh, okay. Like, it's okay. It's gonna happen. It's happening. Went into the hospital Sunday night at 10 p.m. That was the night of the supermoon. So we get there at 10 and we're put in a room, and apparently like 5 different women had babies at the same time. Because, or not necessarily because of the supermoon, but anyways, got checked in at 10 o'clock. It wasn't until 3 o'clock that morning that they came in and gave me my first cervix softening pill, right? By 7 o'clock that morning, I hadn't changed any. I still was only dilated to a 1. They gave me a second cervix softening pill, and then at 10 o'clock that morning, I still hadn't changed, I still hadn't dilated at all. So my doctor came in and, maybe I dilated to like a 2, I don't know, not very much. My doctor came in and broke my water. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so meanwhile, this is happening, and I get this nurse that comes in, and she's older. She's not like, you know, old. She was probably in her 40s. I'm not sure, maybe 50s. I guess, yeah, now that I think about it, she'd have to have been in her 50s. And she tells me like, I want to make sure that you have the birth that you want to have. But the way that she said it, I was like, like, it kind of sounded backhanded, you know what I mean? But it's like, okay, whatever, like, I'll just take you at your word. Like, great, thank you, that's why I have a birth plan. Since I was induced, they had to keep a fetal monitor on me, which partly because I'm plus size and the way my belly is shaped and la la la, like the fetal monitor didn't want to stay placed, right? So they kept having to come in and like fucking tighten that shit down, and it was horrible. Like, it was horrible. So with the fetal monitor on, like anytime I moved, it would lose the baby's heartbeat, right? So anytime I went to the bathroom, whatever. And at one point she came in, she tightened it down. She was like, don't move, like stop moving. It's like, okay. So I would try to like lay in one position as much as I could, and like my hips just hurt so bad. Anyways, it was unpleasant. So then the doctor came and broke my water, and you know, so I'm leaking. I'm literally like leaking everywhere. I thought, you know, because originally I wanted to be able to have a more active labor, like use a yoga ball, use the shower, you know, walk around. But because my fetal monitor wouldn't stay put, like I said, I wasn't allowed to move. And then about an hour after my doctor broke my water, the nurse comes in and puts a different fetal monitor on. Like, they actually, since my water was broken, they put it on the baby's head through my cervix. So I had that just like hanging out of there. She's like, oh, you can get up and move around now. It's like, well, now I'm leaking copiously. Like, I'm actually starting to have contractions, and there's this just fucking cord, excuse my language, but I cuss when I get passionate, and this whole story is passionate. So then I had this cord just coming out of me, you know, not to mention I'm hooked up to IVs and all of that, and I really wanted to avoid using Pitocin as long as I possibly could. My doctor knew that, my nurse knew that, you know. So they broke my water at 10. By 2 o'clock, I had dilated to a 4. But apparently I wasn't dilating fast enough, and they wanted to give me Pitocin. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess that's fine, but can we just start out with a really small amount? And they were like, yeah. I feel like my nurse did not do that. I don't think she started out with a small amount. Like, I'm pretty sure she just fucking kept giving me Pitocin. I don't know, you know, there's a lot going on when you're in labor. So anyways, because my contractions were fine, like they weren't bad at all. No, I guess I hadn't dilated to a 4 yet. I was only dilated to a 3 before they gave me the Pitocin. And so, okay, dilated to a 3, they gave me Pitocin, and then it just like went from zero, not zero, because I was having contractions before that, but they weren't bad, they were completely manageable. And then after maybe 30 minutes on the Pitocin, maybe an hour, I was dilated to a 4, and my contractions were coming every minute. Like, I literally had no break. It was just contraction, 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 and it was horrible. Like, I just literally couldn't stand it, because I wanted to try to go natural. That didn't work. So I asked for Stadol, which is just kind of something to take the edge off. So they put it in my IV, I got the Stadol, and that was nice for a minute. Like, it was relaxing. It kind of felt like, you know, I kind of felt a little loopy. It didn't actually take away any of the pain, right? So I was on the Stadol for maybe 45 minutes before I finally broke down and was like, okay, yeah, I need an epidural, because this, I mean, I'm only dilated to 4, I'm getting contractions every minute. Like, I can't keep doing this, you know? And the nurse kind of acted like, oh yeah, like I knew you were gonna get an epidural, you know, which I feel like she wanted. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Before, when we were talking about wanting to, you know, not get an epidural unless I thought that I really needed it, she was like, well, you wouldn't get a dental procedure without, you know, Novocaine. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's a little different, you know? Anyways, and so this is where shit gets real. So I tell her I would like the epidural, and she says fine, but it's gonna be like, and at this point, like, I feel like she was starting to really get an attitude, and I don't know. Especially when you're in that hospital bed and like you're going through contractions, it's like, I wanted to believe the best in her, but like, especially looking back, it's just like, it's just horrible. Like, she was just not a good nurse. Anyways, so I request the epidural. She was like, it's gonna take half an hour to get here or whatever, and I was like, that's fine. Like, I don't care. I want it, you know, whenever it's available. So the anesthesiologist comes in and they make my husband leave the room, which really, like, I understand why, because people faint when they see that, but also, you know, he was my only support person that was there. Especially, I had thought that I would want my family up there, but actually especially once my water broke, I was like, no, I don't want anyone up here. You know, I'm like half naked and leaking things and just in a bad mood and contracting, so please don't come up here. So anyways, time for the epidural. It's her, another nurse, and the anesthesiologist in the room. And he's back there, you know, scoping shit out. And my nurse is here, and she keeps like, she wasn't yelling at me, but she keeps telling me that I'm breathing wrong. And it's like, bitch, I will breathe however I want to breathe. Because I think she just was tired of hearing me moan. And it's like, if that's what helps me, like releasing it, like through vocalization, what is wrong with that? I wasn't screaming, I was just moaning. Like, I'm in fucking labor, bitch. Anyways, she keeps telling me I'm breathing wrong, to breathe this other way, and then so she's telling me like, stay in this specific position, you know, breathe this way, like, don't you move, don't move now. And then like, she just starts talking about what she's gonna have for lunch with the anesthesiologist and the other nurse. Like, they're just chit-chatting, like I'm not even there. Like, and I have a problem with needles anyways. He's putting this thing in my back, like, and they were just talking like I wasn't even there. Like, no compassion, no, you know, you would think it'd be like, it's okay, like, you'll be fine, no, just like zero, like, oh, it's just another Tuesday. It's like, bitch, I understand that you do this however many times a day, however many times a week, and this is not new to you, but I am a first-time mom, and like, this is a whole new experience for me, so at least like, whatever. And I guess apparently she had like a toothache, and then she talked to the nurse about like getting pills, even though like they're not supposed to take pills, like she was gonna get pills. I don't know. So anyways, I get the epidural. Anesthesiologist leaves, the other nurse leaves. My nurse is like setting me back up in the bed, right? Like getting me ready. And then she looks at my blood pressure, and I'm like just trying to breathe because like I just had a needle put in my back. I don't do well with needles. I don't do well with blood, you know, whatever. So I'm just trying to breathe. And then she looks at my blood pressure and she goes, oh no, that's not good. And then from there, I'm not 100% sure if I lost consciousness or not. I just know like before I knew it, there were a couple other nurses around me. I had an oxygen mask on, and that's when Joe came into the room and he was like, oh my God, like what happened? You know, so I guess I had a bad reaction to the amount of epidural that they gave me, and it decreased my blood pressure. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. You know, I had seen the Business of Being Born documentary, and I knew that if you have an induction with Pitocin and then an epidural, it can decrease the baby's heart rate, right? Apparently. And so I asked the doctor about it, you know, before, or not the doctor, the nurse, about it before getting the epidural. And I was like, how often does this happen? She was like, low, like maybe 2%. Like that doesn't ever happen. That Stadol you're on is more detrimental to your baby than the epidural you're gonna get. It's like, okay, like, I just wanna know, you know? So yeah, then my blood pressure dropped, baby's heartbeat dropped. They thought they might have to do a C-section, and then my blood pressure came back up, so it was fine. So after that, I don't even know okay. As I've stated, I had gestational diabetes. It was on my little birth plan that I had gestational diabetes, and like nobody checked my blood sugar the whole time. Like it wasn't until later that I got another nurse. So this nurse finally, after I got my epidural, pretty much, you know, after the whole fiasco, she left, right? Her shift was done. Thank fucking God. And so then after that, I had this other nurse that was so nice, like so great. I don't know if she was trying extra hard because she realized how shitty my other nurse was, but like mostly she didn't really have to do anything because I was just laboring and I had the epidural, so I was just hanging out, you know, that's it. I couldn't really move. And so she was great. She was super sweet. She was super nice, you know, and then let's see, after the whole scare with the epidural, my mom and my sister, well, my dad came up first because he was leaving work in town, and he came up and saw me while I was in labor. And you know, at that point I wasn't moving. My whole body was covered. So, oh yeah. And I got the shakes. The epidural gave me the shakes. Like I literally couldn't stop shaking, and I was cold, right? Because the epidural makes your like veins cold. So, my dad came up, saw him for a little bit, he went home, and then my mom and sister came up, and then I got another nurse, right? So, because I labored actively for 14 hours, so I consider my active labor whenever they broke my water at 10 o'clock. He wasn't born until midnight, so yeah, 10 in the morning, midnight. So yeah. So we go in Sunday night, all that happened Monday during the day. So the nice nurse leaves, I get another nurse in. She was just awesome. Like she was a cool lady. She was very, you know, she had I would say her personality is kind of similar to mine, you know, like just kind of, I don't know. She wasn't mean whatsoever, you know, she was just like taking care of business and like, I don't know, nice, and she was great. She was great. She actually was the one that ended up delivering the baby. Like she was there for the whole like labor and delivery, like showtime part. So my sister and my mom get there. They showed up around 7. Yeah. And my dad and my husband went and got lunch, right? Or got dinner. And whenever they were like, oh, well, you're dilated to a 10. or a 9, and so I was like, get back here. And yeah, so I was dilated to a 9, get back here. And so my husband gets back, he just got his food to go. My dad goes home, it's my sister and my mom and my husband, and but that was, so they get back around like 8 o'clock. Like I said, I didn't actually deliver till midnight, but I pushed for an hour and a half. So, well, I didn't, let's see, I'm sorry, this is just everywhere. It was 3 months ago. So he was born at like 12:30, 12:29 actually. And I labored for an hour and a half. So that means 11 o'clock was when I started pushing. So it's them, you know, we talk, we chat. I'm feeling fine at this point. Like, I have the epidural, and nobody told me that I was on an epidural button. And so, like, you know, after the giant big dose of it, you know, and me almost dying and whatever, it had started to wear off. And it wasn't until like 8 or 9 o'clock that I asked them. I was like, so does that mean that I can't get any more epidural? Like, because I had the bad reaction to it? And they were like, oh, no, like, you have this button here. Did nobody tell you that? It's like, no, nobody told me shit. I was dying. And then finally, so I'm in labor, have the epidural. Finally, somebody checked my blood sugar, you know, which it was fine. And the baby was kind of not facing the right way. He wasn't breech, but he was like sunny side up or whatever. And so, like, on the epidural, they helped me like go from one hip to the other hip, and then even get on my knees and stuff to kind of help like rotate him out. And I don't know, whatever. It was good, it was fine. And then once I realized I had that epidural button, I was like, like, yeah. But I wasn't, I mean, I was numb from the waist down, but I wasn't 100% numb. Like, I could still feel pressure in my vagina, and not just pressure, because they were like, oh, is it just pressure or is it pain? I was like, well, it's painful pressure. Like, it's not just like, you know, it's not just pressure. There's definitely pain there, definitely pain. And so anyways, it got to the point like where we were all chill, like we all kind of like rested for about an hour. And then it got to the point like with the pain and the pressure that I felt like I couldn't stop it. Like, I was just like, like I felt like it was just gonna come out. And I called the nurse, and the nurse checks me. She's like, well, you know, you're not a 10 yet, you're like a 9.5, you know, so just try to like tough it out, basically, it's okay. And so anyways, I finally dilate to a 10. It's time to start pushing. They call my doctor gets there. I push for an hour and a half. And again, they scheduled me in the C-section room because they thought that I wasn't gonna be able to get him out. But I was able to get him out. So twice I almost had to go get a C-section. But luckily, you know, I was able to have a vaginal delivery, and I only, oh yeah, okay, so hold on. Back up a little bit more. There's so many things happened. So many. So back up a little bit more. You know, I told you I had the shakes the whole time. I was cold the whole time. And then, you know, they had to keep checking my blood pressure because it would kind of dip and then go back up, and same thing with baby's heartbeat. And so I don't know at what time they figured out I had a fever, you know. So I had a fever, and I was so cold. Like, I had all the hospital blankets that were in the room plus my robe on top of, just on me, and they made me take everything off except for like a sheet, right? And I was just so cold. They were like, you got to break your fever. And so I guess because I caught a fever, they were like, hey, you know, whenever he's born, we're gonna have to take him to the NICU. He's gonna have to be on antibiotics for 2 days, but you should still be able to hold him and do skin to skin for a minute. I was like, okay, you know, like, great. You know, at this point, whatever. And then he was born. Okay, so anyways, doctor gets there, push for an hour and a half. He comes out, he got stuck in the birth canal, so his head was like just an alien. I'll try to insert a picture here, just like an alien. He was born with the cord around his neck. Okay, so yeah, vaginal delivery, I'm sorry. I only had a 1 degree tear, so not bad at all, you know, especially as a first time mom. So yeah, he had the cord around his neck, which I didn't even know. I didn't even know until the next day that he had the cord around his neck. So they had him, they were like, you can't hold him. They let me see him for like a minute, like, here's your baby. And it was just such it was just such an ordeal, you know, like, and I remember seeing him and like, hi baby, and they held him there for a minute, let me look at him, and then they took him down, and then Joe left with him, you know, to like see where the baby was. And like, I didn't start bawling, you know, they were just, I just remember like seeing the baby leave and like tears like just coming down, you know, like, and my nurse and my doctor were like, it's okay, like he'll be okay, you know, and I was like, okay, you know, like just, and so my mom and sister stuck around for a little bit. They went and got me some food, and then they went home, and then Joe, they had to wheel me, 'cause at the epidural I couldn't walk. They wheeled me down to the NICU, or up to the NICU, and you know, I saw him, wasn't able to hold him, and then they took me to the postpartum room, right? And so checked in 10 p.m. on Sunday. He was born at 12:30 a.m. Tuesday. It was crazy. I feel like it would have gone a lot differently if that nurse was not my nurse, if I would have had a different nurse, you know, but the one that actually delivered him was great. And I didn't pass out at all during any of it. I mean, other than maybe the epidural, but you know, I was worried about needles and everything and all of that. And luckily I was able to keep my cool, didn't pass out. So yeah, we'll stop this video right here. I'm gonna go ahead and record part 2 about our hospital stay, but this one is long enough anyways, so yeah, I'll just make a part 2. Anyways, yeah, so that was my labor and delivery story. I almost died. I mean, I don't know if I really almost died, but it was scary. Anyways, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching, and yeah, okay, all right.